We all remember recess growing up in school. Recess was a time of day where you could have all the conversations that you could not have while in class. Recess is where you had the real conversations. And real conversations we're going to have. In each episode of the Recess Podcast, I'm going to have real conversations explaining students and school. I'm David McGuire, and I'll be your host. It's recess time, y'all. Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of the Recess Podcast. I'm your host, David McGuire. This is episode 19. But more importantly, this is part 3 of the 4-part series, The Race for the School Board, and I'm excited for this conversation. Little different than the first 2 and the last series, but I think this episode is really important. And so I want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you're a first-time listener to the Recess Podcast, it stands for Real Education Conversations, explaining students in school. We're definitely going to have a real conversation because this series that I've been doing is about the school board races and the importance of school boards. And it's really exciting to see all the notoriety that school boards are getting this year. But tonight is a little different. And so everybody, I know over the past weekend, everybody saw the news and the big story came out with how much money some of the IPS school board candidates was getting and all that big jazz. And that's important. And as I mentioned, the IPS school board race is really important to the education landscape in Indianapolis. But I think it's really important that we understand that tonight, I have 3 individuals that represent 3 different school districts that make up roughly 30,000 students. And so I think it's really important that while we are focused on the IPS school board race, we have to understand there's school board races happening all over the city. And so tonight, I'm going to be with 3 candidates that are running for school boards in Pike Township, Warren Township, and Wayne Township. And so I definitely encourage you to tune into this conversation because, again, all of them are new and are running for new seats on the board for the first time. And you're going to hear why they believe they want to bring fresh ideas to their district. And we're talking about districts that have been around, that have had school board members that's been around, and it's important now as the world is changing, as society is changing, as our city is changing, that maybe our school boards need to change as well because our kids need something different. So really excited for this conversation. I hope you will jump into the comments. Feel free to ask questions. As always, I have my own scripted questions, and they'll go through that. But if you have questions, if you represent any of these school districts or have a family or teaching that district, we hope that you will like and share this video. And so share this video with somebody, and we look forward to the conversation. So without further ado, we'll jump in. We already went through it and talked with everybody about how we're going to do this. And so, Ms. Burke, I'm going to start with you with intros. And so introduce the folks who you are, tell them why you're running for school board and what district you're running for.
Good evening. My name is Karen Burke, and I first want to thank David McGuire for inviting us to participate in his podcast for school board candidacy. I've been in Wayne Township. I've lived in Wayne Township most of my life for over 50 years or more, and I've always had the desire to participate in the community. And I've always been an advocate for the children. My husband and I, we have 3 adult daughters who they are successful alumni from the Wayne Township School District, and now I currently have a granddaughter that's in Chapel Hill, and I have nieces and nephews that are also involved in the school district. So I feel like I have a lot that I can share with the school board and with the community. I am also on the merit board for the Wayne Township Fire Department. I was appointed to that position. And in 2008 to 2016, I was elected on the Wayne Township Advisory Board. So I have been active in the community, in Wayne Township community for many years. So I'm looking forward to being involved with the board. And I can only imagine the resolutions that we're going to come to. We're currently dealing with a lot of challenges, just like everyone else. But I think as a team, we can resolve a lot of things. So thank you for allowing me to speak tonight.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for being on. And again, like I said, I have a connection with all of these. And so I lived in Wayne for 5 years. And so very familiar with everything going on. So thanks for coming on. So next we have Haley. It will be you.
Yep. My name is Haleyilliard. I'm a parent of 4 current Warren Township School students. I have a high schooler, a freshman new to the high school, and I have 3 kids that are in Creston Intermediate Middle School, one 7th grader, and I have twins that are in 5th grade. So we are recently out of our elementary years. We've spent 9 years, the past 9 years, having kids in elementary. So I think the thing I would bring to the board most is a parent view. We have a couple parents on our board currently, but I think we're lacking out of the 7 board members. We're lacking a parent view where someone's in that role on the daily as a parent, and all these decisions affect us and affect our lives every single day. So I think we're missing that a little bit on our board currently. My husband and I are also business owners in Warren Township. We own a electrical contracting business, which is a skilled trade, obviously. So I'd like to see a little bit of focus too in our schools on that as a career choice. So not just pushing college, but giving students a full array of what their options will be after high school. So we're preparing them not just for college, but for trade school or for the military, whatever they feel is best suited for them. And then my volunteer work in the community, I'm pretty proud of. I am on the board because of my role in PTAs over the years. I'm on the Warren Township Council of PTAs board, which also places me on the board of Sunny Day Community Center, which is our clothing, toiletry, and food pantry here in Warren Township. So my family and I volunteer there frequently to help families in our community. And it gives me a viewpoint that, we're not all as blessed as what, my family may be, but we can all work together and encourage our family or our community, to come together and to take care of each other. So just community building in Warren Township. So I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm a first-time candidate, like several others running for Warren Township School Board. But I think my business and especially my role as a mom and being a parent and being active in PTAs and volunteering at schools and all that lends me to be a good voice for our families, especially our younger families in Warren Township.
I love it. Love it. And like I said, I have a connection everywhere. So my school currently is a rock away from Warren. It probably depends on what side of the street you're on, whether we're Warren or IPS. So definitely going to be following that race as well. Last but not least, Miss Tamika, you want to share with everybody who you are and what district you represent and why you're running for school board? You're muted. Let me see. I think Miss Tamika is muted. We'll get her unmuted here. It's still muted. Might be the volume.
Now.
There we go. Gotcha.
Okay. All righty. So good evening, and thank you to David McGuire for having the Recess podcast, and to the other 2 guests. I'm delighted to be here with you all for this discussion. My name is Tamika Lomax, and I am running for a position on the Pike Township School Board. And for 21 years, I have been a resident of Pike Township. And for 12 of those years, I was an actual teacher at Pike High School and Pike Freshman Center. So from 2006 to 2018. And during that time, I was a mentor for so many current and pre-service teachers. I taught classes from AP to intervention and inclusion classes. I worked in after-school tutoring, the 21st Century Learners program. I was the sponsor of various clubs, the Speech Club, National Society of Black Engineers, Architecture, Construction, and Engineering. I worked with students after school for credit retrieval, piloted a GED program initially, and was one of the people who helped start the pre-collegiate initiative that that was so great in Pike years ago. So I have worked with the population, with the parents, trained the teachers as a member of the Hoosier Writing Project and a member of the board of the Indiana Teachers of Writing. I've worked with groups of teachers at Pike across disciplines and content areas in order to help infuse writing into the curriculum for our students and to help the educators in their practice. I have been involved in technology training, and at this point, I am interested in being a member of the board because I have had my professional life governed by the decisions of the board, and it makes me a unique candidate in that I know a lot of the key people and the key players from the inside out. And I was just recently a teacher at Pike. And I currently am a literacy coach at Arsenal Technical High School in IPS. And so my real true professional life involves literacy and equity, access for students day in and day out. That is at the heart of what I do all of the time. And right now, I am interested in having a board that is responsive to the needs, the true needs of the population at a time like this. Not just the needs of the few, but the needs of all of the stakeholders in the community. And I believe that I bring a valuable voice and insight that can help shape policy and also give some practical ideas for how to make the policy actually reach the people. So that is why I am here in this race. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Absolutely. And like I said, I have a connection. And those that know me know that I am through and through Pike Township. Like I said, kindergarten through 12th grade. I went to 3 schools, Eastbrook, New Augusta, and Pike. That's all I know. So definitely excited for this. So each of you touched on something, and we have, like I said, we have our scripted questions. And so I'm going to jump to a question, and I'm just going to get it out the way now. And we talked about it. So all of you are, you've seen what's going on and everything with the charter landscape. And so it's a 2-part question. So the first question is simple. What are your thoughts about the rise of charter schools in the city? And how do you see that affecting the enrollment in your current districts? And then the second part of that is, what's your thought about parent choice? And so the charter schools came around so parents can have more of a choice. But when you think about parent choice in your district, what does that look like if I'm a parent and I live in, by X school, but I wanted to go to Z school, right? What are your thoughts on that? So just the overall rise of charter schools and how you can see it impact the enrollment in your district, but also the idea of parent choice. If you guys could talk about that. Anybody can go first if they want to jump in with it.
Okay, I'll jump in there. I believe in parent first, but I do believe in public education too. Ben Davis, the township, Wayne Township, is a really good school district. But I have a granddaughter that is attending Heron, and they live with me. And we felt like, or her mother and father felt like she needed to be in a smaller school. And currently she had ADHD, and it just wasn't conducive for a large school. And at this present time, she's doing a 4 whatever, she's doing a very good job in Heron. And so then I have a granddaughter that is a hybrid student in Chapel Hill. So, I mean, I love the fact that the parents have choices. I have one that can stay in the district and get a good education, and then the other can go to a charter school for what she needs. So, hope that helps.
Yeah, no, it does, and I think that's a good to have that experience, right? So in your household, you have both experience, both the traditional public school, your traditional township school, but also the charter school. And like you said, it's about what's the need for the child. So Tamika or Haley, you guys have any thoughts about, charter schools and enrollment and just this idea of parent choice? Because that's a big piece. I think that's happening right now, especially with everything with COVID. This idea of parents being able to choose what's best for their child.
It is a major topic right now, and I too understand the need for charter schools. I understand that they feel a need for a lot of the families in our community that they don't feel like they can have met in a traditional public school setting. But I also feel as though that is some feedback for the school district and the school board in order to have those conversations and to see where are the places that we can pivot and start meeting those needs for all of our stakeholders. And that's the way I view that. I would like to see more opportunities for conversations between the parents and the district and the schools. Even if the parents can feel the need to the confidence to say, honestly, I'm thinking about pulling my students away from here to go to X, Y, and Z, but to give the schools the opportunity to produce a plan or to respond to what the students need, because students are at the heart of what we do, but sometimes I think that communication could help a lot of districts retain some of the students who are going to charter schools. And nothing against the charter schools that are there and doing well, but for me, I just see it as a lost opportunity, because we also know that we're losing some of our diversity. We're losing some of our creative thinkers. We're losing some of our students with great skills and abilities that could contribute to the traditional school setting right where they are. Mm-hmm. So I want for the districts to become more responsive, and for the laws to allow that as well. There are constraints on a traditional school that tie their hands, right? Mm-hmm. From doing some of the things that charter schools can do. And so that is also a conversation to possibly have and take place above our heads somewhere, so that we can have maybe a more level playing field with that as we are trying to retain those students.
Absolutely. And Haley, before you go, I would be remiss. I didn't even mention that the Recess podcast is also being streamed on Indy K-12. So I want to shout out to my Indy K-12 counterpart, Educator Barnes, as people know her. She posted a good thought, and it's something that I didn't know. So Tamika and Haley, do you guys know, does Pike and Warren offer the same choice that Wayne does? Like, if I lived in Warren, could I still go to Pike? Or if I lived in Pike, can I go to Warren? Do you know if that's an option in your districts?
Yeah, there's a deadline, but anybody can do like an out-of-district transfer into Warren.
Okay.
And then in Warren Township, you can also transfer among elementaries, or you can do a request for school change. So it's just the transportation piece. The parents have to be able to take them.
Okay.
Warren Township's not going to bus you to an alternate school, an alternate elementary school.
But that's fair. I think that's fair, right? So I think you do. So what about in Pike?
I am not aware. I'm more versed and rehearsed, as you mentioned, about the elementary school kind of lottery, and people wanting to go to New Augusta, et cetera, et cetera. Right.
So listen, I didn't live in Pike. Shout out to my mama. I didn't live in Pike the first couple of years I went, and so we lied and used somebody else's address, because back then that's what you had to do. But shout out to my mom, because I appreciate her doing that. So Haley, same question for you. So idea of parent choice, charter schools, because I mentioned, Warren is in a very unique place. Being on the far east side and the east side of town, Warren probably can get more effective more than any other district with charter schools, just because of sheer location. So in the conversation you had with enrollment and all that, what have you seen how charter schools are playing, and then your thoughts on parent choice as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think charter schools are definitely filling a gap where schools have had to close down community or neighborhood schools, and charter schools can come in and operate in those schools, and it's something nearby in the community, and then a charter school can build a community there. I think we have to do that in our public schools. Be sure to do that. Like, we have a community at each elementary. We seem in Warren Township to lose kids at the middle school level. And the kids that we're losing are the kids, obviously, that have the means to transfer to a different school. So they have parents willing to drive them, and they have the capability, to buy uniforms or those things. So in terms of school choice, I think there's a thing of school choice, but it's not really school choice for everyone, because not everyone has the means to do that. So not everyone has the means to get to a private school or to get downtown to like Heron or something like that. So I think charter schools are good and that they're filling those gaps in those neighborhoods, but it's not a true school choice until a kid can or a family can really choose to send their kid to any school.
Absolutely.
And then the school choice thing, among the districts, I don't see a problem with, or I guess in our inner district, transferring to a different elementary. I mean, maybe your aunt teaches there, or your cousins go there, and it's easier for you to go to that school and go to grandma's house after school. So I don't think that's a problem there at all.
Gotcha. Good. So it's actually Paris. Paris jumped in. So no, you can't live outside the district and go Pike. They'll put you out. So again, shout out to my mamas, because we got away with it.
Right.
But here, you know what? I'll talk to Pike outside of that about that. So let's get into the nitty gritty. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Kate. Go ahead.
Add to that, I just wanted to let you know that Wayne Township, there are no charter schools in Wayne Township as of now.
Okay, so I know there's Vanguard, and then there's Allegiant that's close. They're on the west side, the west side charters. So they might be more in Pike or in the area, but I know there's some closer. So as as charter schools start filtering closer to that side of town, you can see that. But that's good to hear. So all right, let's get down to the nitty gritty of why you guys are running. All right, so I want to hear from you. What do you feel is the biggest issue facing your school district right now that actually motivates you to run? So when you think about, as you were thinking about running, what was the thing that you saw in your district? You said, "Yep, this is my fight, and this is why I'm running."
So my two things in Warren Township, I think, are teacher retention and attraction. We're not supporting and valuing our teachers like we need to be, and we're losing a lot of teachers to other districts, or losing teachers to charter schools, frankly. And some of these teachers are our best teachers. Like, they're teachers of the year in Warren Township for their building, and then within 2 or 3 years, they're leaving for another district. So I think there's a major problem with that, because those teachers are likely the teachers that are building the best relationships with their kids, and they're building the communities in their schools, and then we're losing them. So then parents feel either, I guess, dismayed by that, or, they feel like the teacher has abandoned them personally because there's that relationship there. So I think we need to really focus on teacher retention and attraction to make us like really the place where teachers want to be, instead of where the teachers feel like they're maybe stuck. And then the other thing I think is family engagement. So we do a great job at the high school, and I think getting parents and families in, and we do a great job at the middle school and the elementary, getting them into those schools, but we don't do a great job getting like the elementary families into the high school and really get them bought into like the whole community as a whole. So they're really invested and they really want to stick around through those. I think we lose a lot of kids, like I said, in that middle school, those 5th through 8th grades. And a lot of times the kids we're losing are the kids that, have the most involved parents, or, are some of the higher ranking kids in their class that, really add the diversity piece to our classes. So I think we're losing too many kids in those years because they just don't feel like they're a part of the community. And I think we need to find a way to fix that.
And I would like to echo what Ms. Hilliard is saying. I really have a desire for engagement of more of our stakeholders. the board seems to be this mysterious entity to people right now. There's not a lot of transparency, and then suddenly there's a policy, and it makes no sense to a lot of the stakeholders. A one-size-fits-all approach in this day and age does not work to engage people, which is to say people need opportunities where they are in order to give their input and to feel like they're valued, and that's all stakeholders. I am for the community, the parents, and the teachers rallying around the students to engage, to bring the equity and the change that is going to be needed in the days to come. And when people's lives don't fit into neat little boxes that you can check anymore, especially thanks to the pandemic. People aren't working regular hours. People may have to do things because of quarantining, et cetera, et cetera. And so they need something other than the answer of, well, you can come to the school board meetings. We meet every other Thursday at 7. And if you want to have input, that's when you can give it, because we need to actually make a plan to be where the people are, to bring them in, to hear what they have to say about the reality that is going on in the lives of the stakeholders in the district. So to up that level of engagement and input from the stakeholders, and also to echo that my heart went out to the educators, especially during this time, that they need to have the support of the boards in matters of teaching and learning and safety, because they are there on the front lines with the students. And that is so vital and so important. As I say that, I would like to thank the Pike Classroom Teachers Association for their endorsement of my candidacy, and that it is vital that teachers do have a voice from someone who knows teaching and learning at its core. And I do know that.
And I think that's key. And so I'm gonna go to that point, Ms. Burke. I want you to speak about Wayne a little bit, and I want to jump to that point, but go to my next question. So, Ms. Burke, what was that tug? What was that thing that pushed you and said, "Yeah, this is my issue, or these are my issues, and why I'm going to run"?
That tug came years ago, but because of timing, I wasn't able to do it, and this is the perfect timing right now. And I feel like right now, the children, our students, 70% of the children are of color, and our board does not reflect that. So we need more diversity. And I felt like this was the time. We need to have more diverse school board members on there. So right now, we do have one African-American woman that was appointed in July. So hopefully, Laura will, I will be on the board too come November. So that is it. That's a big thing, is the diversity. And then just to oversee the educational and the support for the teachers, for the students, for the parents that is needed during this time, especially again, like Tamika said, with the COVID. But we have so much that we have to do as a board to come, to support the students and the parents, and again, the teachers too. So that's my main thing.
I love it. So, like you said, so everything's about timing, right? And I feel like each of you, I can kind of tell some of the things you talked about. And so, as I go to this next question, I'm gonna say this. So, like, first of all, if you're tuning in to Recess Podcast, I want to appreciate you for tuning in. Make sure you like and share this video. Share with somebody that maybe live in one of these districts to hear about why these candidates are running. So, I was gonna save this for the end, but I think we got to talk about it. So, everything that's happening with COVID, right? Ms. Lawrence, you said you were a teacher in Pike. Ms. Burke, you had children that went through Wayne. Ms. Haleyilliard, you said you have kids currently in Warren Township. So let's talk about reopening, right? And let's get that out there right now. Because I'm sure as you've done many forums or talked to parents and talked to teachers and community members, they probably ask, how did you feel about how your respective district open to reopen? It's a very touchy conversation. So I know that you're running for a school board seat, but luckily the people vote you in and not the district, right? As far as like people. So when you talk to parents and you wrestle with this personally, how do you feel that your respective district did with the whole reopening? So communication, the plan, the whole nine. How did you feel about reopening? And if you were on the board, what suggestions or thoughts would you have given to how your school district reopened? Ms. Hill, I'm gonna start with you because you're a parent. Like I said, I'm gonna put you on the spot because you mentioned it. You have kids that jump from elementary. So tell me, what was that like as a parent? And then if you said if I was on the board, I would have probably done this. Oh, you're muted. There you go.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I was like, you probably see me just ready to jump on this. Yeah, so I have a freshman high school, and then I have the 7th grader, 2 5th graders. So the district, we have hybrid, which is every other day, alternating days for grades 6 and up. And then in person for K through 5 was every day, 5 days a week, or you have the option for full virtual. So the district opened the door for making your decision, I think around July 20th, which was like 10 days before opening scheduled. And then they ended up pushing the start date back about a week. So I had my high schooler going to school on a hybrid schedule because we thought it was important for a freshman to be in the building, to learn his way around, all that, get a little bit of that experience. And it's turned out wonderful for him. I have no complaints there other than, the only issue was getting our schedule like Tuesday before classes started Thursday. So it was a real fast turnaround. And I know classes and teachers were finding out information, the day of school starting, the day after, and the district ended up letting anyone who wanted to switch from one to other, one virtual or 2 hybrid, they let that go on until the end of that second day of school, actually. So with that, there was a lot of change for the first couple weeks, a lot of teacher moving around. My 5th graders moved classrooms. My 5th graders and 7th grader all started all full virtual. I work from home because of our business. So keeping my kids at home allowed smaller class sizes. Okay. Not necessarily that I was afraid to send them, but I thought it didn't affect us and the way we, operate daily. It didn't affect us working to be able to keep our kids home. So I think the district did the best they could do with the information that they had. And I think they've kept doing that. They've done the best they could with the information they're given from the health department, from the governor, that kind of thing. But I think the communication was very lacking at the beginning. They're like, here, make a choice. We don't know what you're choosing between. We didn't know how they have black days and gold days to divide up the high school and middle school populations. And, so there wasn't a lot of extra information. It was kind of bare bones information to make a choice. Gotcha. So I would have been in favor of a little bit later start, just to give families time to make a better decision, a more informed decision, to give teachers time to figure out things. We also switched to Canvas and Synergy, which was a pre-COVID decision, but that was a switch that happened over the summer. So a lot of teachers going back to school didn't have Canvas training. They didn't have Synergy training. A lot of teachers or families didn't understand the Synergy. We all got letters in the mail, to set up your Synergy account and all that kind of thing. So there was a lot of teachers, especially the teachers that were teaching in person, that didn't have a lot of Canvas training because they trained a lot of those virtual teachers first. And then after school got going, then came back and taught or trained the in-person teachers. So a lot of teachers didn't even have, try this. This will be the best way to start. Or, they were just given very little information and I think not prepared. And even up until the week before fall break, we just had 2-week fall break. We still had some syncing issues between Canvas and Synergy and grades not posting. And so it's been, I know, a headache for teachers to feel that they weren't trained appropriately. But But again, I think it all boils back down to communication.
Yeah. Wait. Did you say that you said you just had a 2-week fall break?
Yes, we had a 2-week fall break.
Whoa! Wait a minute. Hold on. We just got a week. I'm grateful. Shout out to Tinley. I'm grateful for my week. 2 weeks is amazing because we started school in person August 17th. Oh, 2 weeks is great.
Yeah, anyway, we started August 6th.
Okay.
And then we normally have 2 weeks fall, 2 weeks at winter, and 2 weeks spring. So they delayed our start a week, and they took that week off of our spring break. So our spring break will be 1 week instead of 2.
I would rather have it in the nice weather, but shout out to Warren for the 2-week fall break. No, that's great. So, okay, Ms. Burke, I'm gonna go to you last because I want to jump to this. So, Ms. Lomax, I asked you the same question, but I need you to give me the lens of the teacher because you did feel this teacher in Arsenal Tech, but I want you to think about had you been in that seat in Pike as a teacher, and as you're running for school board, right, with that hat, and God forbid, knock on wood, we don't have COVID again or something. But if you're on the board next year, how are you taking the lens of being a teacher in Pike and how you think about communication? Because Ms. Hiller said it affected teachers as well, right? Like they got information, heck, when the parents got it, right? They probably watching the school board meetings like, oh, so that's when we're going to open, right? So how will you take that in account if you're elected and how you think about teachers in a decision like that?
Well, the communication is key, and that is what I've heard from the teachers all along. I don't know that it is so much whether it was a hybrid schedule or when we were going to start or whatever. It is about them having been engaged properly as stakeholders, because what ended up having to happen is that the teachers had to come out en masse at a school board meeting in July, social distance, masked up, and basically call the board on the carpet about what is the reopening plan, what are we doing, and are you taking the data into consideration, and look at the population of the demographics of the people that we serve, et cetera, et cetera. And it was a very interesting evening, to say the least. And the board did vote after that to delay the start of school for COVID, and for people to actually be able to answer the surveys about the options, because it also came out that people were unaware of the options, as Ms. Hilliard was saying. There were people who are speak different languages who were like, we've not seen anything in Spanish. We don't know. We didn't know that there was choices that we could choose to be virtual. And the numbers that I'm hearing, it's probably over 50% in Pike that have chosen to remain virtual, right?
Wow.
Because the demographics are different, right? And we know of how COVID is affecting different people with underlying conditions differently, right? And so I am, kind of interested in the fact, though, that someone sent me a recording of someone who says they are a Pike teacher that was on the radio a few weeks ago talking about the reopening and, those things, and not feeling like they had enough protective equipment, et cetera, et cetera. And I know that I can speak for the fact that is real. Teachers want to feel safe. They want to teach. They want to be there and support the students that are showing up, but they also want to feel safe, and also not like they have to go and spend the meager money that they earn on PPE and disinfectant, right? And or other equipment in order to make the virtual thing happen, various screens and cameras, so on and so forth, because those things are real. And they also, as she alluded to, need the time to be trained.
Training.
Because it is a different world.
Absolutely. Yeah. Miss, you know what? Again, my NDK-12 counterpart, now we were texting when that shout out to Ebony Chappelle real quick for getting that interview, but we were texting, listening to that interview, and I was like, this is crazy. Like, again, I grew up in Pike and I worked in Pike, and that's crazy to think of. I said, and I tweeted this, I said, I pray that that's not true. I don't want to call that person a liar, whoever they are. Right. I just feel like I feel like my Pike, my home is better than that. That's all. I'm gonna leave it at that. Right. So, Ms. Burke, I'm gonna jump to you because back in July, NDK-12, we were following all the school board decisions on reopening and pushing back. And so, back in July 14th, I wrote a piece about Wayne Township because everybody knows that Superintendent Dr. Nikki Woodson shocked the system when she was kind of the first one to say, we ain't opening on time, right? And then literally, the next day or 2 days later, Dr. Bucks pushed back the start date for Wayne from July 29th to August 12th. So you mentioned it. You've been a basically lifelong resident in Wayne Township. So put yourself in a situation, if you were on the board in preparation for the reopening, what things would you have done differently to make sure that the teachers and the parents and the students of Wayne Township felt comfortable and felt like they knew exactly what was going on with reopening?
I have to commend Wayne because Dr. Butts communicated via Facebook all the time. I mean, it was on Wayne Township's webpage. There was a lot of communication going on for the community, for the parents. And so I have to commend them. So I would say there's a lot that I would go in and change because this is global. This was a global pandemic and it affected everyone. So for them to come together with an educational plan within a short period of time, you have to commend them. You have to, and there's still some struggle because, and I'm just saying that as a grandparent, because I see that in my house with my granddaughter, that one is learning one way and the other is learning. And I'm like, okay, I think you should have more work. But again, from the very beginning, they came together in such a short period of time. I have to commend them. Mm-hmm. So I guess if anything would be just make sure the communication is for everyone, not just one group is for, because we have like 72 different languages. So we have to put that communication out there for everyone.
Listen, I say this all the time, and I said it back then. I commend those superintendents because I think what folks don't understand is that seat, right, wrong, and there's nothing they would have done that would have pleased everybody, right? They could have opened early, folks would have been mad. They could have pushed it back to Labor Day, folks would have been real mad. They could have stayed all virtual. They could have opened on like nothing they would have done, and so they juggled all those things. So I definitely commend and pray and share love. And I think the pandemic and everything with COVID made me kind of take a step back of overly criticizing the decision. But I think like you all, we just say, I would have communicated better, or I would have communicated different platforms. I ought to make sure that if I have 72 languages being spoken, then I need to give this statement in 72 different ways, right? No one should have felt like they had to not know the information. So that's all I would say, but definitely with that. So when you think about the school board, right? And again, I talked about this. For some reason, outside of this year, school board races, people just like, okay, it's a school board races, whatever. But people don't understand the decisions that you all have to make with, I don't know, little to no compensation. You get hated. You go from the most like person in the district to the most hated, right? Based on one decision. Everybody's got their hand out. Everybody's calling you, asking for a favor, or can you vote this and that? When you think about the school board, what do you see as the roles and responsibilities for people that are elected to the school board? So when you think about that, like what is the role and what are the responsibilities of school board members for the folks that like don't know?
Well,
I think
the
in,
major,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just gonna, I think most importantly is you're voting on establishing and updating policies for our schools. I think it's important to have a lot of feedback on those. And then we're assuring that funding is spent properly. A little bit of oversight there. And then most importantly, I think the role is to represent the community, to bring the community voices, the parent voices, stakeholder voices, all those to decide what's best for the community or best for the school, because it is such a big part of the community.
Yes. School board members have to work with the board. You have to be able to collaborate with whoever is on the board and come together on the policy decisions in cooperation with the superintendent. You know, it's been explained to me that we approve policy, although we may not be the managers so much of what is I guess passed or decreed from the school board. But with that, to have enough wherewithal to involve the voices of the people as we are shaping policy, which is why I think it is important to get some more voices infused on this current school board. And it will make a difference in the policies that come forward. And for myself, for my part, I understand that when we make a policy, that it is going to have to be lived out in a classroom by a teacher and a student. And I totally understand that.
I want to also add on to that is our first goal is to make the children first as a school board. They're our main responsibility is the children first. And then we also want to come alongside the teachers and the administrators of the schools to be supportive of them. And if there's educational issues, we also need to address those issues too. So the school board is very vital to the education process for the whole district. And I think we do represent our community. And so even with, I would also have to add in with the taxes, we need to educate our community as far as what their funding is doing, what we get from the government, what we're doing with your tax money. So it's a lot of things that the school board has to communicate, but I think all three of us are willing to take that awesome responsibility on because we love the children and we want to make sure they're the priority.
Love it, love it. So I got two more questions, and I want to give you guys time for your final thoughts. So I'll ask these two questions, and so let me see. Let's ask. This is two good ones. So as I mentioned, this is a joint production between myself and Recess Podcast, Indy K-12, and so Educator Barnes had a show with the candidate that's running for school board in Washington Township, and she's going to be on the Recess Podcast next week. But one of the things that she talked about that, and I know that Shantae talks about is there's this big Washington Township parent council that kind of like pulls all the strings of what happens. And so it's a small but powerful group of families. And sometimes they can kind of sway decisions. So my question for you all is, if elected to your respective boards, how will you make sure that your voice on the school board is a reflection of all families and not just this small group? So not just the group of friends that you have in the district or the powerful families that, you know, maybe have the most financial means. How will you make sure that your voice represents all the families? So even that mother, that single mom of 3, or that single dad of 2, or that grandparent that's raising the grandchildren, Like, how will you make sure, and even the more affluent parents, how will you make sure that your voice represents Washington or Wayne Township, Pike Township, and Warren Township, and not like the Warren Township parents of this side or the Wayne Township parents of this side,
right,
or the Pike Club? Like, how will you make sure your voice represents them all?
And my idea on that, I think I was discussing it with some people a few weeks back, is that I think that it's not like the job of just one board member to engage all stakeholders, but I believe that each board member should be assigned different groups of constituents of the stakeholders. So someone has this population and this demographic, someone has this one, and it is their job to come up with a plan to keep them engaged and to get feedback from the groups to which they've been assigned, and to actually enact the plan, bring back the thoughts and views and input of those stakeholders to the board, and we share and discuss and go from there, from that information and data. But I think that it should be something very deliberate along those lines, that, and so people will be accountable. Everyone is assigned a group or these groups to make sure that they have a plan to engage them. They engage them, bring the information, we discuss it, and we start building our action plan from that.
I like that idea. I think obviously I'm bringing a parent voice to the board. Everybody has their own reason for running, and I don't think anybody has a bad reason in Warren Township for running. But because I have 4 kids and because they're all currently in school, I've just got out of elementary. My kids, 3 of them are in middle school, 1's in high school. I have a kid in band, kid in robotics previously. Some kids are playing sports. I have a kid with an IEP right now, so I'm sitting through those IEP meetings just like many other parents are. We're business owners in the community, so we obviously want to make sure that the decisions the school board is making are good for the community, but not just the families, but also the community as a whole, because if the district's not thriving, the community's not thriving. So, and then, like I said, our business is a skilled trade. So we have terrible time trying to find electrician helpers. And that's because there's been such a push, I believe, for everybody to go to college. And sometimes kids, and I'll say like probably in all of our districts, they think of college, they think of college and going to college as their only option, and that's not what they want to do. So they just quit. And, they just assume that once they leave school, they're just going to work somewhere, and that's fine if that's what they want to do. But I think we need to do a better job at, giving them all the options and ideas of all the options that there are. Because I think there's truly something for everyone out there to find and a career to be passionate about. So I think because of all that, being a mom, a business owner, a volunteer at our pantry, our food and clothing pantry here, I think I've seen a lot, and I'll be able to bring that voice to the board.
And I agree with Haley and Tamika. I've been in this community again over 50 years. I was involved in a lot of the activities for my children, starting in elementary on up to high school. And so I talked to the teachers, I was involved with the principals, I was involved even with the superintendent. And with my experience on the Wayne Township Advisory Board, the Merit Board, I'm meeting people from the community. And we're talking, and they're telling me what they think and what's going on. And also, I'm a small business owner also. So when we see these different groups, I want to be able to relate to them. And if I can't relate to them, I can find somebody who can. But I feel like communication is the key to the resolution. So if I can't help you resolve the issue, I'm sure my board member can help. Or as a team, we can work together to resolve it.
Okay, so my last question before we get the final thoughts, and I probably should have put this in the beginning because I know it can drive a lot of passion. But again, I want to give you guys, as we're getting close to the hour mark, I want to give you guys time for final thoughts. But we all witnessed and saw what happened this summer. with the murders of unarmed Black people that handled police officers and how that impacted. So I called it the double pandemic, right? You saw Black people being killed unjustly by police officers, and you saw a pandemic that shut the world down essentially. So all this happened. And so we all saw that the school superintendents of the 11 districts and even the charter schools and IPS wrote this letter of solidarity about what they want to do for racial equity. And again, Indy K-12, we talk about this a lot. It sounds good. I like it. I like that you do the hashtags and you got all that going. But, to me personally, everybody's been a little quiet now. And so what do you want to see from your board when it comes to racial equity, and not just words on a paper or characters in a tweet, but what tangible things do you want to see in your board in relation to like racial equity within the district? Because all schools need to do better. Mine, the three of y'all, and the other 8, and everybody else. What is it that you want to see as far as racial equity in your district?
I would like to see the understanding that racial equity is a conversation and a responsibility for everyone. It's not just people of a certain demographic. It's not just people of a certain ethnic background, but it is a conversation for all stakeholders: students, families, teachers, staff, the community. And we have to regularly and make specific times and spaces in our schools, in our communities, in order to have these conversations. But we also have to train and build capacity. And we have to do that with fidelity and intentionality, not just a haphazard, we stand for racial equity, but what does that look like? To paint a picture of what it looks like in a classroom, what it looks like in the curriculum, what it looks like in hiring practices, what it looks like in training practices, right? And so we also, as a matter of fact, have to understand that it's not about people's comfort either. It's going to be uncomfortable, and we have to let people know that we're gonna move forward with sensibility and sensitivity, but it might cause you some moments to say ouch, but you can grow and move on from it, and that's all of us. But we also need to be able to teach people where to look for places where they can stand for racial equity, where they may not have ever seen it as an issue before. Because I think a lot of educators need to be able to identify what are some barriers and blockers to racial equity for the students that sit before them, some blockers in the curriculum, and to do things to intentionally disrupt the culture, right, of inequity. And that is important as well.
Ms. Burke, Ms. Hill, you want to jump in on this and before we go to final thoughts?
Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm another white woman running for a seat on a school board that's primarily white. You probably can see my picture over there, but my husband's Black. I'm raising 4 biracial kids. So I don't have the same experiences as what a Black woman would be or anything like that, but I do have some experience. And and I've talked to my son recently this week just about his experience. He's a freshman now, and he's yet to have a Black male teacher. He's yet to have a female Black teacher. So in a district as big as Warren, we're still missing, I guess, the mark on making sure that we're having a diverse staff. So I think that's something that's super important, because not only do Black and minority children need to see those people in those roles, but white kids do too. It's important for white kids to see those people. So that's the biggest thing. And then I think it's just making sure we're doing culturally relevant teaching. So like he said, it's not so much even my son, it's not so much even that he hasn't had a Black teacher, but he just needs a teacher that's engaged in what's somebody that's relatable. And I'll tell you, like, my favorite moment one time is he and my 7th grade daughter had both had the same substitute teacher, different days, and they both came home those same 2 days. It was back to back, and they just gushed about how fun this guy was and how great he was. And he talked about NBA, or he talked about, whatever it was. And it was a black male substitute teacher. And they both came home just excited about him and wondering, like, is he going to be there permanent? Will we have him again? So it's like they really draw that, and they really need that. And the more we can build relationships, like the more teachers can build relationships with their kids, the better the kids are going to do. When the teachers are invested and have those relationships, and the kids see that the teachers really care, then the kids are going to automatically do better.
Yeah.
So I think we have to really push those two aspects, like the staff diversity and then what we're teaching and the curriculum diversity, so that all our kids see that, not just the Black and minority kids, but all of them see that.
Yeah, man, that's a whole word. One of the things that I said as a Black male teacher is, I will have impact when I stand in front of a Black boy or a Black girl. But the biggest impact is in front of a white little girl, white little boy. And here's why. When I was in 2nd grade, I had a white teacher, right? She was great. I loved her. When I grew up, my perception of white women was her. So every time, that's why the positive, because I thought about her. And when you think about kids now, if they can have a Black male teacher in 2nd or 3rd grade, what do you think their perception of Black men will be when they grow up? They'll always say, he reminds me of my 2nd grade teacher I had, Mr. McGuire, right? And because they saw him and saw them in that light. But too many times, the only light that they see Black men in is rappers and athletes and this. And so that's definitely true. I definitely agree with you with that. So, Ms. Burke, when you think about Wayne, from a racial equity standpoint, what things do you want to see?
I want to see the diversity within the teaching administration, because I would truly believe we need more teachers of color, because again, I have 70% of the student, based on the data for 2018 to 2019, that is students of color. So we should reflect that. We should have multiracial teachers teaching our children, and the teachers are the first in line to see what the children need, how to respect their culture. So if I am elected, that is one thing I want to just walk around the schools. I want to see what the teachers that are representing the township. I want to see what the children are learning. That's something I want to do. I want to take an in-depth tour of all the schools to see what is there, what's going on, dealing with racial diversity.
Absolutely. All right, so we are at the end, but before we close, here's how we're going to do final thoughts. We're going to go in reverse order. I'm going to give you 1 minute on the recess clock. I want you to make your final plea to the constituents in your district. So we're going reverse order, and we're going to go back to the solo screen. So, Ms. Lomax, I'm going to put you on the solo screen. I'm going to give you 1 minute and give us why you should be elected to the Pike Township School Board. So here you go, and your minute has started.
Hello, Pike Township. I've been faithful, for 12 years, working and serving as a teacher, and now I'm ready to serve on a higher level at the school board level, and it is going to be a challenge, but I'm up for it to represent the great students and families of Pike Township so that we can have engagement and from all of our stakeholders as we move toward equitable solutions for all of our students so that they can achieve their true potential. So please come out, vote for me, and let's take Pike to the max with Miss Lomax together. Thank you.
To the maximum Lomax. I love it. Okay. Miss Hilliard, you're up. 1 minute. I put you on the solo screen, and you give your plea to the community and families in Warren Township.
All right. First, thank you, David, for doing this. I really appreciate the time. I think for the families of Warren Township, you can count on me to be accessible. You can count on me to be approachable whenever we're out and about. I think the most important thing is that we get our families and our young families specifically a voice on our board, because we're the ones living these decisions every day. I want to be that voice for the families, and I hope you guys come out, vote for me. And then I want to see, Warren has a rich tradition, and I want to make sure we keep that going into the future.
I love it. Okay. Ms. Burke, your turn, solo screen. 1 minute. Go ahead. Make your plea to the families of Wayne.
Thank you again, David, for this wonderful evening. And to the community of Wayne Township, I will be with you. I stand with you. Do the challenges, do diversity issues through the wonderful community that we have in Wayne Township. I have been involved. I've been living here mostly over 50 years plus. I've been involved in the community, and I know the issues that we have firsthand by being involved parent, grandparent, aunt. And so I just want to assure you that I'm in your corner. I will represent you, and I have an open door policy. You can call me, you can text me, and you can email me. Thank you, and God bless.
I love it. I love it. So let me just say this. I want to thank all three of you for coming on. And I want you to know, I've said this to the other folks that have been on the podcast in the after show. So I'm going to say this publicly to that's my timer going off, publicly to everybody else. I've been praying to my Jesus for everybody running for school board. And so while the Recess podcast is not here to endorse any particular candidate, because I'm here for the people meaning the community and the kids and the families. But I want to say this. I wish you all nothing but the best. I'm praying for you. I hope that the folks that are listening really take into account the things that you said. I've become a believer in each of you. I believe that everything you said is true and you're going to live by it. So I want you to know I'm going to continue to pray for you now until November 3rd and even after, win or lose. And so I appreciate you for being on, and it truly means something. So I'm going to quote my forever president, Barack Obama, where he said, change will not come if you wait for some other person for some other time. We've been waiting for, we are the change that we've been waiting and we seek. And so I believe you guys are each going for the change. I commend you for running for school board. I think it's amazing. And you putting yourself out there. And so I appreciate that. And to the folks that are listening, as you see on the bottom, Election Day is November 3rd. Some of you have done absentee. Some of you have done early voting. Please make sure you vote. Please make sure you vote with your heart, with your head. Let your voice be heard, whatever it is, so we can make sure that we have folks in seats and in offices that reflect the viewpoints of our society. And so, again, this has been the Recess Podcast. This has been episode 19 and part 3. Tune in this Thursday for episode 20 and part 4. This is the final of this series, Race for the School Board. I know I'm conflicting with the presidential debate, but you can always watch that on CNN. You're not going to get this on CNN, so make sure you tune in 7:30 on Thursday. As I always say, the Recess Podcast, create the platform, control the conversation, change the culture. Ladies, thank you so much. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. I'll see you guys Thursday, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.